Well, welcome back to Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trusted in the News. I'm really excited to start this conversation off with two really wonderful people that I've known for quite some time. One is my Deputy Director of the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, Ms. Shonda Daniels. Shonda, good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
How are you today?
Wonderful. Glad to be here.
Good. I'm really glad you're here. And our next guest is a dear friend of mine, a really hard-charging, professional, successful Black woman in her own right. And presently, she serves as the chair of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. Linda Harris. Linda, good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
And by the way, I'm real proud of the work that you're doing in regards to development. For those of you all that don't know, Linda has always been in the financial world, and she's put some of her money aside, and she's now in development.
So, I am. Yeah. I am. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, good. I'm really happy about that. Listen, guys, so today we're talking about, really the beginning of a new era, right? And we are discussing diversity and equity and inclusion in America and the dismantling, unfortunately, of DEI. For those of you all that do know what the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust stands for, many of you don't know that we were created at a time that we felt that there was no equity and inclusion of Black folk, in Miami-Dade County. And so the county commissioners and the community had the presence of mind to realize that in order for there to be some parity, that our organization would be there to kind of make sure that as this rising tide comes up, that it lifts all boats. So we, if you will, are the keepers of DEI.
Gotcha.
Right? And so this discussion is going to center around that. It's interesting because when Donald Trump got elected, Walmart said, we don't need DEI anymore. But I have to laugh at that because as much as they said they don't need DEI anymore, there was a strong downtick of Black folk going into Walmart before the holiday season when they made this announcement, right? Now, here all of a sudden come all the commercials during the holiday season for Walmart. And they got everybody Black on the commercials,
of course.
And so I guess I want to talk about that, but I also want to set the stage for something else.
Okay.
There is a national movement going on around diversity. As you know, many of the colleges are now having to dismantle their affirmative action programs. But something interesting happened the other day. The U.S. Armed Forces, specifically the Air Force and the Navy, said in court that they must be diverse.
Okay.
And the courts agree with them. Here's the reason why. 85% of the enlisted men, the folk that actually carry guns and bayonets and front line, happen to be Black and Hispanic and then poor whites. Right? And now my father, of course, is a military veteran. And I can tell you that as a poor young boy, at 16 years old, he left home and joined the Army at 17 to escape poverty, to create a good life for his family. And I got to tell you, he's done that. So national security says we need to make sure that our leadership of these troops look like the troops that are on the ground.
Absolutely.
So, Linda, from your perspective, is there any difference in what America needs versus what America needs?
Yes, it really is. Here's my take on it, Bill. If we don't have DEI, then we're depending on the honor system. We're depending on the people that hire, make decisions to do the right thing, to make sure that their leadership reflects the constituents and the customers. And they failed in that. Yeah. They failed, which enacted rules and regulations and laws for DEI. Right. If you don't include these laws and rules, we will have, I believe, your high-end colleges and your creme de la creme enrollment for Black and brown people have went down significantly. Because at the end of the day, if we trust people to do the right thing, to make sure it's diverse, it hasn't been working.
Yeah.
It hasn't been working. The honor system doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so when it's almost become a bad word now. I've been in rooms, as you know, I'm a developer, and it's millions of dollars discussed, and very often I'm the only one. And now it's become a bad word, DEI. That's a way to cuss somebody out now.
Yeah,
oh,
how
you
about
must
that?
be a DEI. And it's so unfortunate.
It is.
How about we just work hard?
Yeah.
We do, work 10 times as much.
Yeah.
It's not going to show itself if we don't. I believe we need it as a law. We really do, Bill.
These isms live, right? I mean,
Right.
You have sexism, you have racism.
Right.
And not long ago, someone told me that, it wasn't until the late 60s or the early 70s that a woman could actually have a credit card
Bank account.
and a bank
And
account.
a bank account.
Right?
Isn't that something?
That's right.
See, that blows my mind. So here it is, and Shonda, this is for you. We've got this whole push toward equity in regards to home ownership and the Black community, right? How do we get to the point that we begin to understand the value of having a diverse homeownership rank, right? What's that mean?
I believe that we already understand the value of it. We know we need it. It's how do we get it?
Right.
And, as Linda was saying, things have to be put into law. It's a great idea to use the honor system, but not everybody's honorable.
Absolutely.
You have a President Kennedy at one time who, was enforcing laws, or you have Lyndon Johnson who went ahead and enforced some things, and then you have somebody in Alabama saying segregation now, segregation forever. So it's not going to work unless certain laws and policies are put into place. We can look at something like the Crown Act.
Right.
We had to put in law that you cannot pretty much discriminate against me because of my hairstyle if it's associated with associated with a certain race or national origin.
So is DEI cultural, or is it a business necessity that it exists?
I think it's both. Because naturally every culture, we're speaking from a Black perspective, but every culture wants to express themselves.
Right.
It's also corporate, because corporate has a responsibility to make sure that these things, everybody, like you said about your father, he joined the military because he wanted to create a better life for himself and his family, which he did. People go to work a job, to create a better life for themselves. But guess what? If there's no open door for me to do that, that creates a problem. And it's been shown in so many different studies that diversity in corporate America, in the workplace, the benefits of it as opposed to the opposite. And then you could take, for instance, because America's a sports country, right? We love our sports, no matter what it is. You have somebody, Jesse Owens was so that Tommy Smith and John Carlos could become, so that, and I'm gonna take it to a whole nother field because I'm gonna go women in this regard, so that Simone Biles, Jordan Childs, and Rebecca Andrade could be right now, because each one of them stood on that Olympic platform, and represented. Had this not happened, so this could happen. Here we are with these young ladies in their 20s making it happen. So I think that the significance and the importance of DEI is always there for every person, although we may be the loudest people in the front because we know what's at stake for us and what we have to lose and gain. And hence the movement in the 60s, it was people were moving. We understand that more than probably anybody on the planet Earth. However, when we're moving, everybody is impacted and everybody benefits. Granted, Sandra Day O'Connor was before the movement. However, she was a white female on the Supreme Court. But before she got there, she was a Harvard graduate lawyer. But she was relegated to secretary work. We all need our secretaries. I was one once. But my point is, you were trained. You're a trained attorney, but yet, because of discrimination, because of the lack of affirmative action, because of the lack of DEI, it's not just for Black people, and that's why in the law it's written, people with disabilities based on sex.
I will tell you that everybody's cause has risen to a height because of the civil rights movement.
That's
I mean,
right.
I told somebody, you know, the let's be real, the grandfather of advocacy was born out of the struggle of the black man.
That's right.
Right?
Without
I
a doubt.
mean, you can call it what you want. I mean, I tell people all the time, I say, you know, we taught people how to protest.
There you go.
I mean, down to how you organize,
Right.
down to the rhythm in the song. You know, I told somebody, you know, and we need to say, hey, look, everyone needs to, if you will, pay penance to us for having enough nerve to create a movement of agitation
Absolutely.
that changed everything. Yeah, because, you know, and it's funny because, you know, I had the good fortune of sitting with Walter Orange and Andy Young and Joe Lowry, you know, when I was in college. And one of the things that they talked about was that King knew that the television cameras were going to roll when the dogs jumped on folk at Edmund Pettus Bridge, right? That's a heavy thing that they all knew. John Lewis knew, you know, and when you begin to understand that is, if you will, the beginning of the discussion around diversity, equity, and inclusion, because here we are, America is the richest nation in the world. Okay, I mean, you know, you could look at per capita, you know, maybe Dubai's got more money per person, but when you look at expanse and size and depth of actual real money,
Right.
America's a grandfather of that. Well, I say this, that, you know, if you just take it individually and you say, you know, Linda Harris, how much money do you spend to clean your house, wash your clothes, cut your grass, you know, and wash your car on a monthly basis, and you say you can get all of that for free, and you could take the time that you know that you need to go out and build your business because now you have something, you know, that's a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah.
I mean, this entire wealth of this country was built on the back of free labor.
That's right.
For centuries, right? And so here we are saying that we're not even close because homeownership now is generational. I grew up in Augusta, Georgia, you know, and, you know, not far from a white community where, you know, houses were passed down in generations. Right? You know, and I will tell you that when I think about that, like the house I'm in now, the Miami Shores, was built in 1933.
Wow.
And as far back as I can see, I'm the first black family to live in it.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
I mean, so wealth is passed down. So when I think about DEI, it has deep, deep roots of necessity. Because now we're talking about how does Linda Harris have the ability to build a business on a level playing field. Right. You mentioned something earlier about the developers and the folk that you're dealing with on a daily basis. You know, I mean, you're a trailblazer, African-American woman who's building something. You know, I mean, I'm interested to know kind of what those conversations look like.
Well, I get in the room and I've been called someone's wife. I've been called sweetheart. I've seen one man texting the other one at the table, and you know, you bleep bleep, and you look over, and you're like, "Oh, come on!" It's obviously you texting him and saying, "Care to share?"
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
But we're going to hit them. We're going to speak the language of corporate America, which is money.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If they do not see the value of having representatives that look like their customers, I don't know about you two, but have you not seen more of every time I ask for an accountant, is he black? If I ask for a general contractor, is he black? If I ask for someone to lay tile, is he black? It is now a push.
Yeah.
It is now a concentrated effort.
Yeah.
Because, again, the law has been abolished.
Yeah.
So now it's up to us to rally around our black businesses and make sure your mechanic, your financial planner, your builder, your banker, you know what I'm saying? If they don't honor the honor system, then let us just do like we did back, you know, in the 40s, 50s, and it's not an option not to use someone that looked like us.
I think that's the only way that we're going to grow. I mean, Shonda, you were talking earlier about Sandra Day O'Connor's, rise, right? And now you have Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Absolutely.
And some folks say, well, was she a DEI hire?
Well, if that's the case, if you look at the Supreme Court right now, they all were DEI hires. They all were. Sandra Day O'Connor would be considered a DEI hire. Sonia Sotomayor, a DEI hire. She's a Hispanic female. Ketanji Brown, Black female, a DEI hire. But see, here's the point. Okay, we forgot Clarence Thomas, and we can go on and on. The point is...
Yeah, the fact that he said Thurgood Marshall seat breaks my heart, though, but go ahead.
I know, okay.
But we'll digress on that one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we got a whole other show about that.
But the point would be, had these laws, had these policies and civil rights acts and different things not been in place, I can almost bet everything I have that diversity in Supreme Court, the highest court of the land, would not exist to this day. Because even right now, you're saying you bought a house that the house was built in 1933, but you think that you're the first Black family to live there. It put like this, it would be a beautiful thing if we could have the honor system.
It would
but no.
It hasn't worked.
Twist some arms, crack some heads, and make things happen, and pass some laws to make this happen, because it's not going to happen on its own. We all know that. We have to fight for what it is that we want. And my thing is, I personally feel like it should be a call to action for everybody who falls within these classes and categories. Listen, Publix hires people with disabilities.
Yes.
That's a corporation,
right?
A huge corporation, and it's allowing people with disabilities who otherwise would not get a job.
Yeah, and they do a marvelous job.
And they do a marvelous job, and I feel very proud when I see that, because I'm like, you know what, this person either would have been not seen, put it like that.
That's right. That's right.
People who, what was the other part of it? Certain genders, certain sexualities. I'm like, listen, how about we put like this? The world knows Black people move.
Yeah.
We've created movements. We've had movements. There was a movement before the '60s. There was a Marcus Garvey. There was Elijah Muhammad. There's different people who were moving and making things happen. My call to action for folks would be this: you fall in this category. You fall deeply in this category. When we kicked the door open in the '60s, you ran through it, and you're still running through it.
Yeah, spring.
It's 2024. How about we get in line together and kick the whole house down?
Love
because
it.
Just the door is not enough, obviously. But you're sprinting through that same door that we set. Don't make it a Black people problem. It's all our problem. If you dismantle this DEI, because again, all of these students that's coming from foreign countries to attend school in the United States, this is DEI. I don't care what you want to call it. Legacy. Michelle Obama said, going to Princeton, you have these legacy admissions. Guess what? That's DEI.
It is.
You want to call it whatever you want to call it or whatever, but it is what it is. Because otherwise, would you have been, just say some random person, would you have been smart enough to get into Princeton had your parents not been
a cheating scandal,
a certain ilk,
that's interesting, right?
It's interesting.
Absolutely.
It's very interesting.
I think that from my perspective, it's odd because we all know kind of what the problem is, right?
Of course.
And that is that this is happening because of a fear of our country 30 or 40 years from now, not only being largely majority from a percentage perspective, but becoming, if you will, the ruling class, right? And so this is a redistribution of wealth, not just because somebody's hooking you up, but because you now have a chance to have a level playing field. Matter of fact, I told somebody the other day in the lab, I said, there is not a sport where a minority, and I don't mean just Black, but that a minority won't win if they are allowed to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
And I think the part of the reason is it's not based on some kind of gift. It's based on drive. There's always a better frame of reference when you talk about people that are driven. And here's a thing that I've said to many of my dear friends and Alonzo Mourning and I have had this discussion 4 or 5 times. You can't teach hunger,
No, you can't.
right? And drive.
No, you can't.
What ends up happening is that when you're given the chance, if you have the drive, you will succeed. And the thing I like about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it does not prevent you from losing your job. Right?
It just gets you in the door.
It gets you in the door.
That's it.
And I think that in my mind, when you talk about the consumer-based world that we live in, where you have people that want a particular product, I think there's real value in building a product based on a cultural understanding of what that consumer needs.
Absolutely.
You can't, as much as you like to, you can do all the studies you want, but you can't feel what a person feels unless you have a resemblance or a relative idea or a cultural understanding.
Part of the community. Absolutely.
Right? Part of the community.
Absolutely.
You know, and so here we are saying that we've got to figure out what's next for DEI, right? I mean, how do we? It's been dismantled, but not. So the question is, what does DEI 2026 and beyond, Linda? What does that look like from your perspective?
From my perspective, it looks like if we don't talk with our purses, for the life of me, I don't understand why big corporations don't understand how profitable it is to have someone like you just said that's part of the community you're trying to sell to. It makes sense to have a beautiful, statuesque black woman is selling black hair care products.
Yeah.
And she needs to be a CEO.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have that, it should affect their bottom line. So it looks like to me, Bill, in 20 years from now, 5 years from now, that I could be wrong, but I hope that they realize it will affect their bottom line.
Yeah.
It is a business decision. And if you want those stockholders to be happy and your shares to increase, it's got to be, you have to.
Yeah.
I think you know, I think it comes down to, like you said, that bottom line, because, you know, money talks.
Absolutely.
And I believe that, you know, but people have to value you and value your perspective.
Yeah.
And if they don't value anything else, they value the money you putting in their pocket. You know, in the night, you know, the boycott in Alabama showed us how it can be done.
Yeah.
If we don't learn nothing else, that's a study in itself of how it can be done. They hit them in the pocket.
You talking about the bus boycott? You talking about the bus boycott?
Yes, the bus boycott.
Okay.
Hit them in the pocket and hit them hard for over a year.
Yeah.
And the reason why is like, okay, we give up. You know how much money they were losing?
But you know,
because the ridership was majority black.
You know, that was a grassroots thing. Why can't we do that now?
But we can.
We can.
So tell me how. Tell me how. I dare you. Tell me how.
I think you make everybody that's given that title of DEI, because now it's like a curse word now. You in the room and everyone wants to attach that to you.
But we can define it. We can redefine it like we
can
define
take
everything
back
else.
our narrative.
That's right.
And we do that by making sure that every profession, I don't care if you need a yard man, you make sure, since they want to use it against us, that we participate in DEI. Yes, I'm going to have a black yard man. I'm going to have, and it's not a matter of somebody else is not qualified, another ethnicity. But if you're going to punish me for being this black woman, why can't I use it in my favor and start just making sure I empower and uplift others that look like me?
Or instead of trying to get a seat at a table, make our own table.
Absolutely.
Tell me what you mean by that.
Listen, we have enough wealthy black people and enough poor black people. Everybody has a role. Everybody organizing, unifying, because when it comes down to it, we're all we have, and we're in this together. Now, our cousins can come to the party, as long as they understand what we're doing here. And like I said earlier with my call to action, it's like, yes, I do want you there, because we can't do this alone. We really can't. However, let's understand the assignment.
Absolutely.
And I think when, like, say for instance, I'll take the entertainment industry. You know, we've made leaps and bounds. You know, we have directors, we producers, different people. However, ownership. And another thing is, you know, I don't have to like you to work with you, but I'll respect you. You know, we have a common goal, and if we keep our eye on that prize, we can make it happen. Don't get into this emotional fallout of, well, I don't like him anymore, so now I'm going to destroy the entire company. MGM, I'm sure there were many arguments and debates and downright brawls at MGM and Paramount, all these huge companies that still exist. I remember when I was a kid, you know, you remember that lion roaring?
Yeah.
That lion is still roaring.
Yeah.
And you're like, how is this?
Sure.
How is this possible?
Sure.
I'm sure there was plenty going on behind the scenes, but people had enough, the presence of mind to say, listen, we have to be able to take this into the future because this is generational wealth.
So are you talking about protests? Are you talking about, mobilization? What do you?
What it looks like to me, I'm gonna tell you what I've done. I've identified about 7 Black women. We all own our own land,
Sure.
free and clear.
Sure.
We asked to speak with the mayor because 80% of the money is going to just 20% of the developers.
Yeah.
We wanted part of the RFA to be geared towards 40 units and under, that missing middle.
Right.
And she listened.
Okay.
And so a couple of
Good
us
for her.
have gotten allocations.
Okay.
And so to your point, there's no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests.
How about that?
And
How
our
about that?
interest was to get these small missing middle developments.
See, you know what? And by the way, I agree with both of you. I believe, I think that we have to have a sniper focus
Yes.
versus a shotgun. I think we need to be issues driven.
Okay.
Right?
Correct.
And by issues driven, I'm saying we need to rally around a singular cause and let's have a win. Let's define it, let's measure it, and let's then celebrate it. And then let's move on to something else. What I'm always afraid of is that we get watered down because the enthusiasm is dissipated because it's not concentrated, right? You know, we instead of us saying, we're going to keep this mighty river roaring, we're looking to get to the mouth of the river and have it dump into the ocean where it becomes dispelled. I would love for us to say, let us pick a target.
Okay.
And let us aim at that target and don't stop until we've gotten what we want.
Laser focused.
Laser focused.
Okay.
And we do that as an organization.
Okay.
We do it as a neighborhood.
Okay.
We do it as a community. We do it as a city. We do it as a county.
Okay.
So that we can show the strength of our resolve. And that's, I believe, what we're missing. I want for us to consider building a manifesto around that. Because I believe that if we do it that way, then we can get to where we want to go. You know, as a matter of fact, I introduced you earlier before you know, when you came in to the new young lady, Danielle Jeter, who's my new public information officer. And I love Spelman. I do. She's a Spelman graduate.
Okay.
I love Spelman because they are unapologetically a college for Black women.
Period.
Right? And I think that when I take a look at that, and I take a look at the uber success that they've had, it's because when you come there, you know you're only helping Black women. And I think that's an idea whose time has re-arrived, right? Now, a lot of folk don't know this, that Spelman College was named after Laura Spelman, who, you know, is the mother of John D. Rockefeller. Right, you know, and so when you think about the fact that it was financed by, you know, this white family, and created, they understood, so they were a partner in this. So listen, guys, I've enjoyed this conversation. I want for us to think about kind of what we do next.
Okay.
This has been the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust in the news, talking about diversity, talking about equity, talking about inclusion. But let this be the beginning and not the end.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for coming. Really
you.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
I enjoyed
You
the
all have a great.
conversation.
And by the way, a lot of folks say Happy Holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
Kwanzaa and all that good stuff.
And happy holidays and happy Kwanzaa, and because I think it's important for us to realize that we gain